But yeah, I like those. I do drink water when I'm playing DDR, and it tends to be Aquafina because that's what my local rhythm store has.
Nice. All right. So getting into the game here, this is actually going to be a very interesting CvV. We don't have the player names. This was downloaded straight from Untapped, and I think they might strip the player names if I didn't download it directly from the player's profile or something. So it's just going to be Celestial versus Vanguard player. That's yeah, that even in like under the unit name, it just says player one, player two. I was hoping that might have been like overlooked or something, but not this time. So we do see a pretty. Should we just jump 10 seconds forward so we can get past this
No,
part?
this is. I actually do want to talk about this because the common logic in Vanguard versus Celestial as the Vanguard side is of two schools of thought. One is get the mech bay immediately. The other is fast expand, then get the mech bay immediately. Because there's a lot of talk about how powerful vectors are in the matchup. And then we're also seeing over here on the Celestial side an immediate grab for a second collection array. Now, that is tempered a bit by the fact that they need that because the collection array is something like half or 5/8 of the economy. But we see a power bank and we see a creation chamber go up. And so both players are set up to just have a straight out knockout brawl on a very well explored map. Like interesting center because we know that vectors and hedgehogs tend to get used. There's actually the barracks right there, which is necessary to get up to tier 2. And I'm very curious to see how this game ends up getting played because
Yeah,
yeah,
I really like the further forward barracks. By the way, like I know that Vanguards will tend more to build in their main, but there's no rule saying like you must put your production structures inside of your main, and putting them a little bit forward. I mean, is just that that much less that the unit has to walk to get to wherever they want to go. We do see a scan go down from the Celestial player. Strangely enough, it must have been centered like right here, but it does see like both barracks. It does see it like it basically sees everything. It was
yes,
it was a
this is the most
fantastic
godly
scan.
scan imaginable.
Yeah,
Like even if your name was Scan, you wouldn't have had a scan like this.
yeah.
Like this is really good.
And we don't see anything being produced out of the barracks just yet. We see what's getting chased away. Oh yeah, it's a Vector first. Okay, so
Yes.
Vector's not having the best reputation among Vanguard players right now. They're so agile. They do anti-light damage, which is especially oh, there we go. Yeah, they're a nice little repair-matic just to make sure that the Bobs stay at full health.
Yeah, this is interesting because normally, as I said, the idea is either you fast expand and you get a mech bay immediately, but we're actually seeing not one but two barracks instead of the one that is required. And then we're seeing on top of that a biokinetic slab. And so we see not one but two exos being made, and with the sentry post already made, this is actually going to be a pretty clean defense of the vectors. Now, this is only part of the story if you're a Vanguard player, because you actually don't have to worry that much about not dying to the initial vectors at this point. You now have to be worried about the entirety of map control that these anti-light teleporting units have. So we should expect that player 1 or blue, I'll just call them blue for now, we should expect that blue is going to be able to go get quite a lot of value if they don't lose these vectors. Okay, there's the teleport back. Yeah, if they don't lose the vectors, then they get the teleport back. We should expect that blue, as the Celestial player, should be able to get a lot of work done. If, there's a chance that they can snake up over here, it looks like they're just going straight up to the kill on the sentry post, but if they can't get it, there's always the threat that they walk up into the main and get some damage in there. There's also the threat that if they feel they really can't get anything more done, as another teleport, another blink gets started, there's going to be an attack, one bob's going to go down. Good individual focus fire there. There's also the threat that they could just leave if ever they decide they're done here. And yeah, they just go control the map. So this is what's really scary, really threatening if you're a Vanguard player. Feels like there's not a whole lot of agency that you have. As a couple of scouts are going to come out. They're upgraded to tier 3. These are the strongest scouts imaginable. But they can see why Celestial players love Vector's Toast Crunch. You know,
So
it's the
I
blink.
think
It's
I
the blink
think
they can see.
I think the counterplay here is you have to keep your scouts in reserve so that way when the vectors teleport, the dogs are right on hand wherever they teleported from, and then like suddenly they're taking like permanent damage. I think that's the I think understanding where the vector is teleporting from is a big part of the counterplay for it. Like
Yes.
if you had like a Vulcan or something waiting right here, and I know I think right now it's popular to say that the anti-vector is the Graven, but that's a tier 3 unit, man. It's not like you just be like a Graven, of course. Why didn't I just wave my magic wand and make a Graven? It's
Yes.
I know it's a lot tougher to make them, but it's not like there's no tools at your disposal at all. And yeah, our Vanguard player is losing some dogs. Already lost a couple of Bobs as well. I think he is staying fully saturated though on the base. But yeah,
I
like
do want to give some kudos to what you said there, because one of the benefits of this 2 barracks opening instead of going right into the mech bay is that you are pre-planning the production structures that will allow you to make, more exos as you need to get that in, more scouts to make the front line so that you don't lose them one at a time as they trickle in. But also you're looking at the possibility of getting Gravens over there, and this is the point of the game that we were talking about a bit earlier. Looks like Red has done a good enough job defending that the Blue Celestial player is now turning to phase 2 of the game plan, which is, congrats, you have 2 bases, but understand you'll never creep against me, and it's starting to take all the free Luminite that's just available in abundance on this map.
yeah, it really is the smarter idea for a Celestial player. Is like, look, the value that you're trying to get out of assaulting the Vanguard natural just isn't giving you the value that you want. It's much more profitable to run around the map, start collecting buffs, start getting all that bonus Luminite and Therium as the case may be, depending on the camp, and then maybe macro up a little bit, get even more vectors or get higher tech units that can actually challenge structures a little bit better, and then come back and try and do some damage. But again, because repairing is free, just doing chip damage to a lot of these things isn't the way. It's yeah, especially with the repair-matic here, like these vectors are going to struggle to do any kind of permanent damage to these Bobs. That's while they're mining. Like if they wanted to stop mining and just do heal hugs the entire time, they can. But now the counter to the vectors is out. We see 4 Gravens out on the map, cloaked, and they're ready to start dropping sticky bombs. The sticky bombs, of course, do stay with the vector as they teleport around. So whether they recall back or not, that sticky bomb is going to go off, and nothing hurts a very mobile unit more than being made less mobile, like the sticky bomb does. So the Graven really is the perfect counter to the vector here. Let's see if they're going to come around. Yeah, I think they are going to come around to the flank here. We do see some Kree out already, though. There we go. We see a sticky bomb. Okay, it's a decent connection against a couple of them, but they're both anti-light units trying to fight. Oh no, it doesn't land on a vector. Okay, that one did. That one destroyed another vector. Yeah, these Graven are really just chewing up these vectors, and I think that stage of the game is over. So this Vanguard player has kind of cracked it. It's like, okay, putting a flat cannon and a repair-matic right next to your natural to like defend the Bobs and repair the Bobs so that you're not taking that much damage might be the key to getting out of the early game against Celestials.
Yes, there is something I want to add, if we could very quickly, as this recapture of the vision camp happens over here for our red player. I want you to notice the structure of this natural. I want you to notice that there aren't any buildings that complete a full wall between those 2 barracks. If that were done, the only way for the Vanguard player to get out with Gravens, those light units, would be out through the Bob line, through the line between the central post and the Luminite, and you could just park the vectors in a permanent concave on the far side. So actually taking the risk and having confidence in your micro, in having this SimCity on the red player is also an integral aspect of what allowed them to move out with the Gravens, and it also allows them to get up this refinery on the Therium without having to build and pull Bobs from that direction. You're actually reducing the main to third distance here, and reducing the natural to third distance by taking that risk early on. But it looks like it's paid out.
Yeah, I really like that. That's another thing where making overly defensive plays weak, I think is a good design choice. So by maintaining that openness, yeah, it might seem oh, beautiful sabotage is going down on these arrays, and it only takes 2 of them to kill an array. And what? Only gonna lose a single Graven? I think that Graven can teleport out now, can it? Or is he just going to let it, is he just going to sacrifice it? Okay, losing 2 Gravens for 2 arrays, that's a fantastic trade any day of the week. But holy Kree run by. We're going to see Kree's getting surrounded by dogs. The Bobs are going to do the heel hugs on one another, trying to not take economic losses, but as they run through these exploding Kree, they are going to be taking some damage. The Kree retreating just long enough to get the rollout so they can get that AoE back, but the Gravens are getting involved in the fight as well. Don't walk over that exploding Kree. Okay, they do manage to avoid it. I think the sticky bombs being used on Kree is fantastic as well. Being able to slow them down, making sure that basically every unit is buying time so they can get away from the AoE attacks that the Kree do, especially since they're so close to the mobs that are... Okay, there we... Is this... Okay, does split it away. That was actually a really nice split.
A very nice split, and I wanted to highlight a couple of things that the red player did there on the defense. So first off, you get this idea that Kree are very good. It's bad to pull bombs even if they're overcharged, but actually only the splash of the bombs gets hit. The Kree only splash out when they're actually coming out of their roll and they do their twirl. So you can actually pull the bombs after you do that. The reason that you have scouts in this matchup is a pretty good soak for all of those spiral motions of the Kree. I also want to note there, when there was a Cabal nearby before this first Saber generated and another wave of Kree was coming in, a lot of people would be really turned off by that, be really scared, feel like they can't hold the third. Very intelligent play over here from the Vanguard player to say, well, I'm just going to have all of these bombs do the heel hug with one another. Go back and watch this if you want to. Later on, you'll see what I mean. And now actually with Hedgehogs, you got finally, in addition to the power of the Graven and the speed of these scouts, you have some Hedgehogs with their own speed and a bit of durability that actually is going to put the end and put the kibosh on these Kree.
Yeah, and it's interesting seeing that these that the Cabal are being used for their debilitate spell, and they're not lifting anything. I would imagine that because Gravens are so powerful, you could use the Cabals to just take them out of the fight temporarily, get rid of anything that's doing just straight up DPS damage, and then you have a little bit more room to maneuver when you don't have to worry about the sticky bombs coming down from those from the Gravens, of which there's only one now. So like just taking that Graven out of the fight temporarily so you can mass up and take care of like the Exos, the Hedgehogs, and the one remaining dog, I think would be wise, but he might just not have researched the spell just yet. But I think it would be nice because the lift works on low unit count armies that have really powerful units. Like, oh yeah, taking one unit out of that would be a big deal. It's not going to be as effective against this composition, so maybe the debilitate's worth it. But again, there's just so many units here for the Vanguard player that debilitating, what, 4 Hedgehogs at a time? Like, yeah, it's a decent chunk, but is it enough? I don't know that it's worth the expense of a Cabal. Although they are just like camped out on top of the energy regen camp, so maybe it is worth it. Maybe it's not like they have to like wait a long time to cast another spell. Good use of the Repair-O-Matic as well. But he's also got a sentry post right there that's maybe a little bit closer. That might have been a better pick, but he also might have forgotten that it was there. Oh.
I want to note something interesting here, and this is a bit of an oblique conflict, a concept that comes from an entirely different game. Are you familiar with the idea of transposition in chess?
No. Explain it to me.
So the idea of transposition in chess is that you want to have an opening that looks like this way for both of the two sides after 10 moves, but you know if you go directly into it, your opponent has an ability to counter it. Notice here that we actually have an army that is the Hedgehogs and Vulcans that the Vanguard player would want, but instead of opening directly into the Hedgehogs and having a Hedgehog vector battle with hugs, we've actually gotten into that same desired composition for the Vanguard player without sacrificing and possessing the weakness that the blue player as the Celestial could work around. So transposition is you have a different start for the purpose of going back into the same build structure. And so now the Vanguard player has what would on paper seem to be an ideal army without having to go through the early struggle that you would normally associate with attempting to get this army, such as by building a mech bay immediately.
So to someone with a pasta brain such as myself, would it be accurate to say that transposition is using a different path to get to the same destination? Build-wise.
Yes, and also you think of the advantages that you have here. You have access to Gravens if you want them. You have a much more robust economy, 3-base economy, 4-base now up, and also this map is a bit favorable to it if you look, because you actually now have the 4th base, but most importantly and more critically, the 3rd Therium is now available for our red player. And on top of that, there was the successful block you mentioned earlier in the center of not one but 2 extremely dominant collection arrays, that if you were just trying to stop this with 4 hedgehogs, you just get pushed back by an endless litany of Argents and Kree and all other manner of things. Now we have a very powerful army, and on a supply level, without the supply deficit that you would normally expect from this matchup. Very
Yeah,
good movement, by the way, on blue of that prism bouncing between the Luminite and the Therium to make sure that it's not contested by red by accident.
yeah, yeah. I do like that. I also think it's very interesting that it's almost an automatic, like, I must scout the center just because Celestials will automatically go for the arrays in the center because they can fly over and they can just take them for free without weakening their position at all. And knowing that the tech required, oh man, what a catch! Knowing that the tech required to stomp down those trees usually comes later in the tech path means that that Celestial player can start mining out these Luminite mines, and you know, maybe they do get pushed off eventually, but it's worth less to the player that pushes them off of it after they've been mining on it for quite a while. So it it is almost like a known quantity that, like, yes, the Celestial player will take those center 2 Luminite rocks, and yes, the Vanguard player has to go check them because the Celestial player has to take them. I do kind of like that it comes down to the execution, not necessarily like, yes, decision making in RTS is the test of skill, but knowing that that some of the decisions are already made for you. Oh, beautiful bubble goes down.
Ooh, and a giant protector right over here. There's actually going to be multiple spellcasts over here that's going to reduce the incoming damage over here on the Vulcans, the most important units. There's going to be a huge fight over here. A lot of the Hedgehogs are going to go down, but a bunch of the Sabers are now located over here. They're going to have a 50% boost. You can even see the movement over there on the little blue particle effects. Them running to the health camp trying to block this off. But actually, the tankiness of the Hedgehogs is so good. Even a couple of them are going up to the siege mode. We've got a couple of scouts that are in the back over there, and they're attacking them. And this actually looks like the rare supply lead for the Vanguard player, actually. The initial fight, very good. Took out all of the Cabals, didn't suffer too much from the Hedgehogs. Actually got a beautiful concave and forced the attack move over there, as they not only took out the 3rd, the Luminite that was over about the 7 o'clock position, but by moving over to the natural was also able to intercede in between the enemy Celestial army and their position on the health camp that was pretty stable into the natural, and force a huge and advantageous economic trade.
Have you ever seen a Sentinel kill a Morph Core? That is, I don't know that I've ever seen, like, if there was kill counters in this game, I would be very surprised if the Sentinel ever got one. But this one definitely earned it. Yeah, he's the menace of the skies over here by the Therium. But okay, we are seeing a blast node, or at least I saw the connection from it. There we go. And a couple of Animancers that are out. There we go. Now we're seeing Dark Prophecies go down. Dark Prophecies are fantastic against this composition, where it's high volume of units, but with maybe lower sophistication. That being said, the Hedgehogs are big enough that they're not clumping up as bad as Exos would be. But we already saw a good clean transition outside of Bio to Mech from the Vanguard player. So now he can sit back, he can macro up a little bit, he can do a little bit of mining of his own, and oh man, rushing through that tree line. Actually, you know what? I do kind of like it, because if any Celestial forces try to come through this choke, they're fighting into a choke. So that's almost something that you would want to happen as the Vanguard player, as long as you stay in there. But he's certainly not doing that, being ultra aggressive against the Celestial eco and making absolute mincemeat out of so many arrays. That's what? How many arrays have been killed off so far? It's been 4 or 5?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Another thing I want to stress right here is the army, if you're wondering why the fight was going badly in the natural, it's going pretty well now, is that you actually need the scouts to soak up the Kree, because you don't want to be kiting and expending all of your Hedgehog shots on the Kree that are in the front while they're also running away. You kind of want to use their mobility, and so we waited for a couple of those to soak up. A couple blast nodes are going to kick aside these units, and also resetting the Vulcan count there was very important. Now we're actually seeing the poke through over here on the tree line, and a big engagement is going to happen. The Dark Prophecy is going to go down because there's not any more of a front line. Those Animancers are going to disappear, and so are the Kree, and the Sabers don't have anywhere to move either. There's 2 Animancers, one of them's even trying to get in. The big Archangel actually gets in.
Archangel comes down
right on top of the Hedgehog
unit. He's not affected by these blue bubbles. He can just sit there and tank damage all day long while not caring that his opponent is getting shielded by these Sentinels. The The Sentinel's not
Yes.
doing much. Oh, what? And he's not. Oh, because he's inside of the bubble. He's not taking damage from the. What? That was actually a really sick play.
I also want to note while he's in that avatar form and he's doing the spray damage that's happening over there, it's actually very difficult because the hedgehogs are overtaxed. They want to be on the ground. They want to get rid of the sabers. They want to get rid of the adamancers, the cabals, and the fight through the dark prophecies and use their hit points. They don't actually want to be in an immobile state, but they had to be in order to fight that giant archangel that came down, did the meteor crash, is actually able to clean up the fight, and it's kind of a backing off point for both of them. There's only a red here of the army for the hedgehogs to go attack the bottom right-hand side base, but it's not actually enough to just kick the Celestial player out of the game entirely, although this is big economic damage. Those are two tier 3 Vulcans that have been in this game for probably the last 15 minutes now, maybe even 10, 12 minutes, and they're just going to go wreck the bottom right-hand side of the space. We don't see any units that are moving out to benefit them, and the entire map looks like it's red. In fact, only the bottom left-hand corner, not even the normal Luminite third, is contained over here by the Celestial player, and you just kind of have to think that it's about the mech transition and the spellcasters that were able to turn it around.
I'm surprised that actually, now that you mentioned that this third was never retaken. It's just a single sieged hedgehog, which makes sense because if you try to build if you bring a morph core over or whatever, and it gets taken out as it's building, that would really suck. But it's a single hedgehog. Just have this archangel come over, bonk it around with the bonk stick a couple times, and then build another array. But then again, maybe the damage has just been done at this point. There's just so much eco that's behind. Yeah. Oh.
Yep. I mean, arcangel
another meteor
right
smash.
Yep.
And now he's completely out of mana. I think he's not going to be able to ground himself anymore, which is another really interesting strategic value of the archangel and how you use it in combat. Because like, whether you fly it up into the air and you want it to stay there, that's fine. But if you meteor smash and you use avatar and then like, are you just stuck on the ground, or are you stuck in the air and you're no longer able to attack ground units and soak up damage from, let's say, Vulcans? What if you really want your archangel to be the HP sink, like the actual tank at the front line to soak up Vulcan damage, but you're out of mana and you can no longer meteor smash? I wonder if that kind of like thought, if that calculus goes through the minds of Celestials, or if it's just, hey, this does damage, now it has an AoE dot, like, it's good, I need to go back and recharge it. Or if that actually does go through people's mind. Holy repair-o-matics, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. So what makes sense over here now with the huge supply deficit is that what the Celestial player is trying to do is they're trying to transition their ball army into what can I do any damage with? I have these Archangels, can I get any value out of them? And we see no less than 4 sentry turrets that are right there. 2 of them are repair-o-matics for the other 2, and that's more than enough to kick aside that as well, with the benefit of a tier 1, maybe it's even been promoted to tier 2, like we see no less than 4 of these Hedgehog siege up over here by the Luminite expansion, not even the critical center expansion, which look at that, a repair-o-matic, a turret. We see a litany of scouts over here making sure that even this Luminite doesn't get captured. And so the harassment opportunities for the Celestial player look like none, because now they have transitioned. They don't even have the Cabals. They don't even have the Adamancers. They're looking at not Kree, but Argents, the only thing that they can make that's left. And they only have a very, very thin tap, low energy, thin tap Ethereum, and yeah, they're just going to have to try and hope that there's a colossal blunder. Maybe all the hedgehogs get sieged by accident, and then there's a meteor swarm. Maybe all of the scouts don't see anything, and then they just get blown up by the sabers in a single couple, in a couple hits.
I wonder
it's going to require a throw at this point, but it's going to have to be a softball pitch with the advantage that the red player has.
It certainly is Vanguard's game to lose, and I wonder if the hope right now is, well, you're right, because he needs to mass some kind of DPS, and oh no, not like this. There we go. Okay, if the game GG'd out to mass dogs, that would have been a little bit of a frowny face. Like that would just be a terrible feeling. But he does need a lot of DPS quickly, and oh my god, the chicken. But so that explains the Argents. But I think that right now the strategy is take out as many of the Sentinels as you can to prevent the bubbles, and then use the Animancer's Dark Prophecy. Oh, we don't see a bubble at all, but the Dark Prophecy does go down, and it's starting to get great connections against the
oh my gosh, the Saber and the Archangel are just completely sealed away by the Sentinels. There's a Sentinel for each one of them. There's even a couple of extra Sentinels just for the side. All the Argent's going to go down. Sabers have nowhere to run away to. They get destroyed. That gets destroyed. The Archangel, the only threat, mid-charge! It's mid-dive! dive. Unfortunately, it's doing the butterfly because it's going down and coming back up, and its wings are never going to connect to the ground. It's going to get out of its charge animation, land on the ground, and find that unfortunately time has passed them by. Say goodbye, Captain America, as he is now stuck.
Well, no, Itano, where'd you go? Itano! No, we didn't see a GG, but I think it's plain to see here that the Vanguard player just like after he took his victories, expanded some more, kept on taking bases, kept on doing damage, and yeah, the Celestial player was never able to like really fully recover after losing so many arrays. But GG's, guys.